Let's be honest, it's a question that's probably on a lot of our minds lately. Over the next 10 years, how likely is a major war? Or, even worse, a nuclear exchange? It feels more urgent than ever. So today, we're not going to guess. We're going to look at what the experts are actually saying, the people who study these risks for a living. And I have to warn you, their forecast for the coming decade is, well, it's deeply unsettling.
So here's the plan. First, we'll get the big picture, the overall vibe from these global experts. Then we're going to zoom in on the specific conflicts they're really worried about. From there, we'll follow that terrifying path of escalation into the nuclear realm, see how a crisis could go from 0 to 100 in minutes, and then we'll wrap up by asking a really tough question about the one strategy that's supposed to prevent all of this.
All right, let's dive right in. We're starting with a major survey from the Atlantic Council that asked hundreds of the world's top strategists a pretty simple question about what's coming.
The question was really direct. A decade from now, is the world going to be better off or worse off than it is today? And remember, the people answering this aren't just random folks. We're talking experts from government, the private sector, and universities across 60 countries. And their consensus? Well, it paints a pretty stark picture.
62%. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how many of these experts believe the world will be a worse place in 10 years. A clear majority isn't just being cautious, they're actively pessimistic. This grim number is really the foundation for everything else we're about to look at. So what exactly has them so worried?
Well, that pessimism isn't just some vague feeling. Nope. It's rooted in very concrete fears about specific, escalating conflicts between the major world powers. The experts see two main flashpoints that could just ignite a global crisis.
First up, and this is a big one, all eyes are on Taiwan. For years, the question of whether China would actually use force was, a hot debate. But now it looks like the consensus is shifting, and it's not in a good way.
Yeah, look at this number. Nearly 2/3 of the strategists they surveyed now believe that China will attempt to retake Taiwan by force within the next decade. That's a huge shift. It suggests what was once seen as a possibility is now being viewed as a probability.
But a US-China conflict isn't the only great power war scenario keeping these experts up at night. Not by a long shot. Fears of a direct, hot war between Russia and the entire NATO alliance have also just skyrocketed.
Almost half of the experts now see a direct military clash between Russia and NATO as likely in the next 10 years. And to give you some perspective, in the previous year's survey, that number was only 29%. That is a massive leap in perceived risk in a very, very short amount of time.
The danger of these conventional wars is terrifying enough on its own. But both of these scenarios involve nuclear-armed powers, which raises the ultimate specter, the risk of nuclear escalation. And the data shows this is no longer some fringe concern.
So first, you've got the issue of proliferation, basically more countries joining the nuclear club. The survey asked the experts which non-nuclear country is most likely to get the bomb in the next 10 years, and the answer was, well, it was kind of a landslide.
The answer is just overwhelming. An incredible 73% of experts believe Iran will develop a nuclear weapon by 2035. An event like that would totally reshape the security landscape, not just in the Middle East, but for the entire world.
Okay, so getting the bomb is one thing, but actually using it, that's a whole other level. And this is where the forecasts become truly chilling. When the experts were asked which country is most likely to actually launch a nuclear attack, two nations really stood out.
About a quarter of them said Russia, and another quarter said North Korea. They're basically tied for first place as the most likely to break that 80-year-old nuclear taboo. And these aren't just numbers on a page. They reflect real-world anxieties about deterrence crumbling in Asia and reports of just how close Russia came to using one in Ukraine.
So, here it is, the bottom line. When you add it all up, nearly half of all global strategists surveyed now expect a nuclear weapon to be used somewhere in the world in the next 10 years. I mean, think about that. This isn't just abstract pessimism anymore. It's a direct result of everything we've just seen, the risk of great power wars, aggressive moves, the breakdown of old treaties. The unthinkable is now considered a coin flip possibility by the very people paid to know.
I know. Data points and percentages can start to feel a little abstract after a while. So to make this risk feel truly real, let's walk through a scenario based on the book Nuclear War, A Scenario. It shows just how fast a crisis could spiral into global annihilation.
It starts with just a single missile from North Korea. Within 6 minutes, the U.S. president has to make an impossible choice. To retaliate against North Korea, U.S. missiles have to fly over Russia. Moscow sensors see them and they mistake it for an all-out attack. Communication breaks down. Convinced they're about to be wiped out, Russia launches over 1,000 warheads. In a final, desperate act, the U.S. unleashes everything it has left. In less than an hour, a limited strike kicks off a chain reaction of automated systems and irreversible miscalculations, leading to global thermonuclear war.
Okay, let's pull back from that horrifying but terrifyingly plausible timeline, because it leaves us with one fundamental and deeply disturbing question. It's a question about the very doctrine that was supposed to keep the peace for over half a century: deterrence.
You see, the whole theory of mutually assured destruction is supposed to prevent nuclear war. It's built on the idea that leaders will be rational, that they'll have time to communicate and think things through. But as that scenario shows, in the fog of war, when your decision time is measured in minutes, rationality and communication are the first things to go. The system designed to prevent the launch becomes the very system that guarantees it.
And this really gets to the core of what all these warnings are about. In an age of hypersonic missiles and fragile communication, our incredibly complex, hair-trigger systems of deterrence might have become the single greatest threat to our survival. So the final chilling question is this: is the machine we built to keep us safe now the very thing that will guarantee our destruction?